Welcome to Real Talk, Real Women. My name is Miriam Khalladi, and today we have remarkable Gillian McRae on the show. Welcome, Gillian. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. Gillian, you went from a self-described size 17, lethargic and depressed mom relying on food banks to the healthy and happy woman you are today. That's quite a life transformation. What made you want to make a change?
There was a number of things that needed changing in my life. The size was one of them. As you said, I was quite lethargic and I was depressed. Emotionally, I wasn't at a good place in my life either. So there was depression and lethargy, and those things went together. But I wasn't able to care for my kids the way that I wanted to. So physically, I wasn't able to keep up with my kids. And I had just had my third child, my last and third child, who I had named Faith. And there was a significant amount of things that had to change in my life in order for me to provide for those three children. My marriage was at a really kind of rock bottom place, and I knew that if I was going to take care of my kids the best way that I could, I really had to make some significant changes in my own personal life. And so it wasn't just a physical transformation, it was a personal internal transformation, and that's what led to the physical transformation, was the internal first of all.
You lost 18 sizes, 40% body fat, and well over 100 pounds over the course of 2 years. Just as remarkable in the fact as you did it all as a single mom of three while working full-time and raising children with disabilities. What has been your biggest learning through it all?
I think that you have to do it yourself, and that when you try to adopt all the other systems and programs and what society tries to sell you, it doesn't work. And I had tried all of that prior to the birth of my final daughter, and when it finally worked, I had struggled with my weight for years with the two children that I had prior. As you said, I maintained this kind of size 8, 17, 18. I know that that doesn't matter much in the UK or around the world, but I was over 180 pounds, kind of hovered around 180, 200 pounds. And I tried all these different systems and weight loss pills and acupuncture, and went to all these different programs and spent thousands of dollars trying all these different pills and products and quick fix systems. And I would lose 30 pounds, and then I would gain 50, and I would lose 60, and then I would gain 30, and I just kept bouncing back and forth doing all these different programs that were other people's. And so when I came back from having the birth of my third child, I realized it had to be my own. It had to be something that was mine, and I couldn't do it for other people. And so that's when I created my own program and my own system. And I didn't buy anybody else's. I was able to create my own resource binder, going to the library and taking out books. We didn't have the internet. I couldn't afford to even have the internet at that time. That wasn't in our budget. And so I walked with my new baby and with my kids that were little to the library, and I took out books, and I went to secondhand stores and I took out books and bought cheap magazines, and I made my own resource binder using commonalities that made sense with clean eating and Body for Life programs and everything, understanding, like low GI diets and things that made sense for my body. And so over the course of 2 years, I had created a system for me. It wasn't somebody else's. It wasn't a pill bottle. It wasn't a shake. It wasn't something that I ordered online and went in debt for. It was mine. And so that's how I was able to be successful, was because I invested in it. It was my investment for my life.
That's amazing. At some point, your commitment and determination started to take the shape of an obsession. Tell me about that and how you broke free from it again.
Well, the obsession is tricky because people start to look at you and put you on a pedestal. People start to see this incredible transformation when you go to the gym or when you're being very successful physically, and people don't ask about the internal. People just see, especially in the fitness world and fitness industry, And they just assume that it comes really easy. And they don't know about all the background work and what you're going through emotionally. And so they don't understand also medically what happens when you drop significant weight. So nobody was asking me about my iron levels. Nobody was asking me about that my nails were getting brittle and that my hair was falling out. Nobody was asking me how physically exhausted I was. And that, mentally and emotionally, I was struggling trying to keep up with this weight, and that I was terrified that if I didn't go 5 or 6 days a week to the gym, or that if I didn't weigh in, or that if I didn't run, or if I didn't go to 3 spin classes a day, I was going to gain weight. So it built up this obsession for me that because I had done so good and people were now looking at me as a role model, I had to keep it up. And I was terrified of gaining weight. And when you go from, a size 18 to a size 0, you have a lot of skin and you have a lot of stretch marks, and you don't really know what to do with it. So you're constantly trying to wear clothes and tighten and carry your body in such a way that nobody will know. And so you're masking and you're trying to keep up this persona and this outward appearance that is really fake. And as much as you're hoping people won't catch on, inside it's this battle to be real and to say, yes, this is me. but you're also trying to demonstrate to your children, who am I and what's healthy and what's a healthy body image. And so I got myself really stuck in this place, especially when I started to run, because I developed this love for running, but too much of a good thing isn't always a good thing. So one race turned into multiple races, turned into this addiction to registering for races. And you have to beat your next time, and then people want to know, well, what race are you registered for next? And it's kind of like in the fitness competition world, it's the same thing. Is, well, what competition are you doing next, and who's designing your suit, and where are you going? And it's no different in the fitness industry as it is in the running industry or in anything else. Sports and fitness are competitive. And when you've gone from being obese and unhealthy and lethargic, you feel like you have something to prove. And for myself now, being able to just stand on my own 2 feet and say, I am what I am, and I'm healthy, and I don't own a scale, I've come a really long way to be able to represent healthy body image and to say health and wellness versus fitness, because fitness is very scary. Like, the fitness industry can really take you by a storm if you're not careful. And it did, because I was terrified of gaining 0.6 on a scale. That terrified me, that meant I was going to be over 200 pounds again, or what happens if I'm a size 2 versus a size 0. So it became an obsession for up until, oh gosh, it's years. Years over this period for sure.
You also have a learning disability and had to develop your own learning strategies to match your way of understanding and processing of information. Tell me about that.
Yeah, the learning disability. These are good questions. I'm glad you're asking these. So as a child, I was really struggling in school, and this is back in the 80s. So back in the 80s, they didn't really know what to do with kids who had challenges in the classroom. You kind of were just identified as being difficult, and I was put on medication for having problems concentrating and whatnot. And we were taken out of the classroom and put on a bus and sent with the other kids, most of them that were in wheelchairs and that had to wear helmets, and sent to another school where we received additional help. And I was treated really poorly by a number of teachers who knew that I didn't have the comprehension and the knowledge to complete math problems and to understand the way of doing math in particular. And it wasn't until later on when I had a really great math teacher, a really great teacher who said, Gillian is an effective communicator. Gillian, yes, has tons of energy and she's really creative, but her brain just doesn't work around math concepts, and her brain just doesn't work that way, and she needs to be taught differently. And that doesn't mean she's stupid. It doesn't mean she's dumb. It doesn't mean that she needs to be taken out of the classroom and that she needs to be put on a little yellow school bus and sent away. It means that she has other gifts and other skills and other abilities. And I remember that teacher, his name was Mr. Gallo, and it's taught me so much in life about recognizing people's gifts and abilities, and that it doesn't mean that one is less than the other or one is better than the other in life. It just means that we all have different gifts and abilities. And where somebody told me that I talked too much, another person said I was an effective communicator. And so what I've learned through life and how I learn is that I'm very visual. I need people to show me things, not tell me. So if somebody's going to show me when I'm a teenager or says, you need to take the bus, I need somebody to show me the map. I need somebody to show me from A to B, this is how you take the map. As an adult to this day, if I'm going to get through an airport, I need somebody to show me how to get through the airport, not just say it's over there. That's just how my brain works. I recognize that now. That doesn't mean it's a deficit. It doesn't mean that I'm not smart. It means that that's how my brain works and transports information. There are things that I'm very, very skilled at and that I do incredibly well that somebody else might not. So I haven't been able to do certain things. I did my personal training certification the 3 days, but I haven't written the exam, because the exam is just so overwhelming and so challenging for me, with it being 100 multiple choice, trying to retain that much information, and to put it back out in a theory exam. My disability prohibits me from retaining that much information. Do I know it? Have I trained myself for 8-9 years? Have I lost the weight? Do I know how to relay it? Do I know how to train people? Absolutely. Can I do it? Absolutely. But can I do it from an academic standpoint and retain that much information, 100 questions, that much information where, I can't. So I'm a very narrative person. I managed to get a 5-year university degree, but I also got learning disability status, where instead of writing exams, I was able to write everything, and I was able to relay the information to the professors. So I've had accommodations made where, the university and people along the way for different certifications have said, we recognize Gillian's skills and what she's good at, and we value that, so we're going to find accommodations for her.
Back then, you learned that you were having a little girl. You named her Faith, knowing that to have faith is having hope in what you cannot see and believing in what you know. How has faith helped you on your journey, and how important is faith in your life today?
It's everything to me. So my middle name is Faith, and as you know, from a branding perspective, I use the name Gillian Faith. McRae is my legal name, but I use Gillian Faith for a number of reasons, because it is my daughter's name, my youngest daughter's name. It's my middle name, and because it's my personal faith, it's my personal belief system. And I believe that, having been in the social service field for 20 years, you can't work with people who have been cast off in society, whether it's because of drug addiction or because of weight or anything. You can't work with people who have been cast aside and told you'll never make it, you're not going to be successful, if you don't have faith and you don't have hope. You have to have this. In my Christian belief system, it's often known as the fruits of the spirit. You have to have the ability to believe that there is more without having evidence. So I'm not a very science-based person. I'm very much of the mind that there is more, and that you have to put your trust in more when you don't always have a tangible proof that it exists. I am a risk-based person where I like to take a leap of faith, and I like to believe that in doing so, people will step forward and people will see the results will be there. How the name Faith came about was that it was a very high-risk pregnancy. Faith came about 5 years after our other two were around. Cameron was 5, Michaela was 7, and she was a complete surprise. And it was 15, I was at a 15-week gestation period, and I hemorrhaged very, very badly, and the doctors said, she will not make it. They said it was going to be a spontaneous abortion. I had hemorrhaged very, very badly, and they said, just lay here comfortably and expect to lose the fetus by the next morning. And I just began to pray fervently that the baby would survive. And over the period of that night, I committed the baby to be named Faith, because I believed that faith was believing in what you could not see. And so I committed that the baby's name, I already knew that it would be a female. They had done multiple ultrasounds, so I knew that it was a baby girl, and I named her Faith. And when they came back in the morning, they said, we can't explain it, but there's a heartbeat, and it's strong. And I just kind of laughed and smirked and said, I know. And so I was put on bed rest for the rest of that pregnancy, and she was born a healthy 6 pounds, 13 ounces. And she's now 9.5 years old, and has more gusto and zest for life than anybody. And so, I just believe that she's a very tangible example of when you put your faith and belief in something, even though the medical community or other people might write you off, or might write off something like a dream that you have, you just have to go with your gut. You go with what you believe, even when other people say, no, there's no chance. You just have to go with your heart.
Wow, I agree. Yes, great story.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've been through so much, yet regardless of what stood in your way, you don't seem to have made many excuses, and instead went from results. You had 1,000 reasons to give up. What kept you going aside from having faith?
Well, I think that, my dad is a good example. My dad fought through cancer. He did end up losing his fight to cancer. But a number of times I thought of my dad with cancer and the number of surgeries that he had, radiation and chemo and his treatments, and not just his, but I remember him talking about being beside little kids. He would go for transfusions, and I remember him coming back from transfusions or treatment, and him talking about sitting there watching little children having their transfusions, and watching the parents and the agony that those parents would have to do while the parents sat beside their little children, 2 and 3 years of age, going through cancer treatment. And so I've often thought of situations like that and thinking, like, who am I to complain about my life? And going through 20 years of social work and social services with children who have been in the foster care system, without family, without parents, without a home. When my utilities have been shut off, or I haven't had food to pay pay the rent, to feed the kids or whatever, we've still had a home. Or even if I didn't have gas to put in my vehicle for the kids, we've still been together. Like I've never lost my kids. I've still had family. And so I've always had this attitude of gratitude that regardless of how bad our situation is, I've been very mindful of what is around me because of the field of work that I've been in. And so I'm very mindful and aware that because we've kept our foot in the door of donating to World Vision, being a social worker on the front line with people on the street, and all these other capacities that we've been involved in, our life is good. Like it doesn't really take a whole lot to give you perspective when you're having a whiny day. You know, like when a check bounces or you don't know how your rent is being paid or whatever is going wrong in your world, all you really have to do is walk down the street and see somebody else's situation, and then, you know, your oh boo-hoo moment is quickly dissipated. So I've tried very hard to just never have that never quit mentality, because there are people out there that, honest to goodness, from a resilience perspective, are remarkable people, like absolutely remarkable. And so who am I to ever whine, to ever complain, to ever think I have it bad? And so I guess to answer your question about, you know, how have I never quit, or how have I never, when I've had circumstances that have been quite significant, well, I don't know that they have been that significant when I compare them across the board. To some people, perhaps they have been, but if I compare them to others, they're really very little. You know, when I think about what other people have gone through, mine are just very menial.
I know you're very passionate about writing and speaking and sharing your life story and messages. Why does it mean so much to you to spread the word?
I would go back immediately to the teacher when I was young who said, "You don't talk too much, you're an effective communicator." I believe that we all are born with gifts, and so I believe that this is something that I have been gifted to do. And I believe that we all are born with a purpose, and I believe that it's my purpose to share my story. I think that if I was to simply just sit on my hands and duct tape my mouth and not talk about the way that all the different individuals that have come in and out of my life have influenced me and the marks that they've left on my life, then we wouldn't have all these pay it forward experiences, and people wouldn't know. If we didn't talk about our ideas, we wouldn't have all the incredible inventions and all the incredible ideas like yours. Like if we actually kept things to ourselves, then nothing would move forward. You know, I taught recently at the university, did 3 different lectures to a business class, and I was able to just equate this simple idea of Steve Jobs and say, like, if he didn't actually speak out about his ideas, where would we all be as everybody's sitting there typing on their different devices, right? And so for me, sharing my story, that's my invention. That's what I have. That's what I've been gifted. You know, over the years, over my whole life, I wouldn't say just my career, I've been impacted by all these different people, whether it's a teacher or somebody that I helped when I was in grade 7 and I helped them overcome something while I was volunteering, while I was like, you know, in grade 7 when I started doing volunteer work. These are all moments in time that we carry with us that make up our story. And to some people, it's not storytelling. For me, it's storytelling. That's my gift. I'm not an accountant. I'm not good with numbers, but I'm good with storytelling and I'm good with sharing. And if people are impacted by me when they hear me speak, if they're motivated by the words I have to say, then that is what I believe God's called me to do in this lifetime. So my hope is that on a grander scale, instead of just doing individual life coaching, which takes so long and is so arduous from a work perspective, if I can do larger scale platform events, even do a GillX / TEDx kind of type situation where we can start doing platform events and major speaking symposiums, where it doesn't really matter the topic. My heart is just on empowering people to see their potential and to not be stuck thinking that they have to be more before they start, and that right where you are is enough. I'm enough. And that you don't have to get approval, you don't have to wait, you don't have to be more before you start. And that whether it's on healthy body image, whether it doesn't really matter the topic, I get just jazzed up and get just so excited about the pure idea of inspiring and motivating people right where they are with whatever they have and whatever they bring. So it doesn't really matter the topic almost. It's just using people and the gifts that they have that they don't even recognize they have. That's exciting to me.
You're doing such a great job, Gillian.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It's exciting right now. It's an exciting time.
Right. In one of your interviews, you state that a lot of personal trainers and so-called fitness experts might have credentials, but have limited experiences themselves. What are your thoughts there?
I mentioned earlier that I had done this 3-day certification, this 3-day personal training certification. And, I did the training, but I'll give you an example. One of the fellows that was in the training was a 19-year-old who showed up hungover all 3 days and chewed tobacco, for all 3 classes. And so, he was able to write his theory exam because he was an academic. So he wrote his theory exam and he's now a certified personal trainer. So I scratch my head at a situation like that because I think somebody's going to hire him as their personal trainer. He's this young blonde, looks good in somebody's gym. He's really big, he's really buff, and some young 20-year-old girl is going to hire him. He's going to get the commission from a gym to be a personal trainer. And he's gone into it thinking, yeah, I'm a certified personal trainer, yeah. And it's such an injustice to me to what the health and fitness industry should be. I just feel sad when I think that there are hurting and broken people out there who are looking for these quick fixes, in particular for weight loss, and what they really need is long-term treatment. And that's what I want to offer, is I want to help people understand the why. I want to help people understand why they got there, how they're there, and like myself on my journey, I had to do the internal work. It was no use for me to just join a boot camp class and for me to do that. That's why I went into that obsessive part, was because I was so quick to try to figure out about impressing people and, okay, I need to make sure that I, look the part, that I wasn't paying attention to all of the damage that I had done those years of systems and shakes and plans and programs. I needed somebody to work with me on the counseling end and on the holistic end. And so that's what came over these, this 8-year period has been the personal transformation, has been the, how did I get there? And what's my worth? And what's my value? And what do I do from the investment standpoint? And so that's why I've done the life coaching and the speaking and the women's groups, because really this is a hurting population. When people at 3 o'clock in the morning are sitting watching infomercials and are paying hundreds of dollars for all these different damaging products that are not approved by the FDA, and are willing to spend countless dollars on their credit cards that they don't have because they just want to so desperately lose 50 pounds in 2 weeks, that to me says not that they necessarily need to lose the weight, but there's something broken in their life. They're looking for acceptance. They're looking to be approved of at work or in a relationship. Something is wrong. And so I instead would rather work with people on their worth, on their value, on who they are, on what went wrong earlier on in life, than see them go to a 19-year-old who chews tobacco and learn some bicep curls, right? Or be told, here, take 40 grams of protein in a protein shake and eat chicken and egg whites by some guy that could care less about their heart. So to me, it's a heart matter. It's not just a physical issue. And I wish that there were more personal trainers. There are some great ones out there. There are some amazing ones that do a lot of the life coaching and that will take the time to work very sensitively with their clients. But unfortunately, there's not enough that, as I say, work like a hairstylist or work like a bartender, where they build that relationship, where there's that rapport and relationship. And there needs to be more. There needs to be more that are willing to work that relationship out with clients who are really hurting and are really desperate. And a 1 hour a week session just standing there while you're talking on your cell phone, and I see it all the time, where you're just like, okay, 15 more. Okay, we're going to move over here. Okay, jump rope for a while. Well, you're watching, the 45-year-old woman in her husband's jogging pants, panting and dying, and you're not listening at all to why she's here. You're just taking her money, is really sad. I'd rather have that woman in a women's group with 15 other women talking together about what's going on in their lives and us moving forward to make some goals together. So there's a big difference when people say, oh, how come you're not a personal trainer? You could make so much more money. And I'm like, well, I could, but I'd just be stealing it from people. Yeah, I'd rather work at a larger audience and speak to what's really going on and how we can really do some healing work instead.
You recently started your own consulting business. Tell me about that new journey.
Yeah, so really what had happened and where the Gillian Faith Consulting came from was because the demand and the interest level was so high. A year ago, I guess 14 months ago, I was trying to work full time. I was a foster parent program facilitator for an agency in town, and I had recently won the BC Strongest Woman competition, and everybody was asking, can you make me meal plans? Can you do personal training for me? Can you do all of this on the side? And I was trying to answer all these questions. People were following me on my Facebook page. It's Not We Way for Real People. And I was getting a lot of recognition. Articles had been written about me, Viking Strength, and I was starting to write articles for different magazines. And I had been scouted to do a fitness competition. So fitness-wise, I was getting a lot of recognition, and I was trying to balance messaging people and emailing people while working. And I was like, I need to make some money on this. Like, I can't be replying to people and doing this. And my contract ended at that agency, so it seemed like kind of the world was opening up to me, and God was saying, okay, I think this is where I'm going to send you right now, is you need to start your own company. And so life coaching seemed natural. I did the 3-day certification for personal training because I thought, well, I should have that in my back pocket. But like I said, also the theory exam just was not, I was not open to that. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not actually going to do personal training. I know how to, but from a liability standpoint, I wasn't comfortable doing it with people. So I focused on the life coaching, had a number of clients, started running women's groups. And then I realized my passion is speaking. People started to pull me in to speak at schools and at a couple of different women's events, and I realized this is my gift. Like I had done speaking over my social work career and counseling career at different events, conferences and women's events and youth events, and I realized, this is really where I want to pull my consulting company. I do love consulting with different companies and agencies, and I love the life coaching. But if I could just focus on doing the motivational and inspirational speaking, since that's where people seem to have their greatest interest, is in my transformation and is in my message, the holistic message of personal, is in the physical, spiritual, mental, and emotional, and why what I do is different from just personal training, and that I want to work with people from those whole 4 quadrants, and that it's not just about a physical transformation, but that it's about looking at the person from a whole. People, including businesses, started saying, we'd like you to come and work with us, and do corporate luncheons, and can you come and talk at the university in our business program? And I was like, yeah, this sounds good. This is making sense. People are starting to understand my platform and who I am, and the healthy body image versus I'm not just a fitness model. I had done the fitness competition last March, and I got really unhealthy following it. It hit me really, really hard, and I came back from it and realized, that's not who I am, and that's not the image that I want to represent. I was very proud of who I was and what I did, and that I accomplished that. But I needed to really reinvent myself as a professional, and needed to look at who my target audience was, and I realized that it's the professional speaking and consulting folks that was my audience. So, Eric Robbins and that whole group of professionals. So that's who I've, in the last 6 months in particular, kind of been adopted by, is in Toronto in particular, those folks, both with, the co-authoring of a book and speaking platform with Colin Sprake in Vancouver, and Teresa Larico with Socialite, and a number of different people have pulled me in as a professional speaker, and that's the direction. So I've pulled away from the fitness modeling and being a fitness athlete, whereas, 6 months ago they were like, yeah, we want you at the Olympia and we want you at the Arnold, and I was like, wow, that's a lot of work and I'm never going to be able to eat. And now I'm like, I can eat, but I get to write and I get to speak professionally, and let's build that career. So big transition, big difference, but I'm really excited about the way my company has now been growing.
Amazing. And
Yes.
where can people go to connect and learn more about you online?
So I have the website, and we're constantly updating that. I just hired a personal assistant 2 weeks ago. So he's working with my graphic designer to be updating it. So it's just gilliansfaith.com. So Gillian's with an S in the middle. Gilliansfaith.com is the website. And then, of course, connect@gilliansfaith.com is my email. And then there's Twitter and Instagram, and my Facebook is Gillian Faith.
Right.
So there's lots of different ways.
I will also make sure to put your links below this video.
Yes, please. Yes. Lots of different.
Is there anything else you would like to share today that you feel we've missed?
I would love to just talk for a little minute about the Christmas gala that I just did, because being a social entrepreneur is what's just happened in the last couple of months. So what I have under Gillian Faith is that life coaching, speaking, and social entrepreneur. So if you look at LinkedIn, it'll now show social entrepreneur. And the reason why I have social entrepreneur is, if you're familiar with Teresa Larico, which many are, and Gwen Elliott and those folks, and Eric Robbins, I was so impacted when I went to the Socialite convention last year that you can't just be a business person and be successful as a business person and also a humanitarian without needing to give back. And as I made the transition from being a social service worker, a social worker frontline, into being an entrepreneur, I realized that my true passion was to connect the two. And I'm such an incredibly passionate person, and also very, very gifted at decorating and event coordinating and home decor and design, that I thought, wouldn't it be amazing if I could put all of that together into planning events for women who don't get to go to events and don't get to go to the same fancy type of events that the rest of us go to. So 6 weeks ago, I came up with the idea that we would have a Christmas gala for women on the street, and those women who really are the ones that fall in the cracks of our services. And so last Thursday night on the 18th was the first annual, because it's going to happen now every year. It was called the Street Light Christmas Gala, and it ran at one of our downtown outreach services. And we serviced over 250 women that came from 9 to 6 to get their hair, makeup, nails done. And we collected clothing, all from the community, fancy clothing, where they got to come and pick up their outfit, shoes, all the accessories. They got to take them home after the gala, which ran from 8 to 10. And it was all entertainment. It was a completely, it was like a winter wonderland, completely fairy tale gala. So what we're going to do is we're going to run that every Christmas, and then every June we're going to have a grad party for women pretty much 30 years and above who got what's called their GED, so their graduation equivalency diploma. So they didn't graduate from high school and they never got to have a grad party. And so they're the older women, and then we're going to have a big grad party. And so we're going to run 2 events every year just like that, and then we're going to do workshops, women's empowerment days, and workshops and leadership conferences for women on the street as well. So I'm really excited about that. That's coming under Gillian Faith, is the social entrepreneur piece and connecting those. And I'm excited that I'm going to be in April a part of the Dynamo Entrepreneur Blueprint for Success in Vancouver, as well that I'm co-authoring a book with Colin Sprake and many other amazing people as well, with James Erndt from Toronto. So lots of big things to be following through on for 2015. It's really exciting.
This has been amazing. Thanks for sharing and being a part of the show, Gillian.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for watching. My name is Miriam Khalladi. For more inspiration, check out our website at realtalkrealwomen.com.